second in our Carmilla series on this level. These films, in case you didn't go to the website or anything like that, are very loosely based on the Through a Glass Darkly Carmilla by Sheridan Lamanda. Okay, but I said very loosely. We have a staff example. Okay, so there you go. That's where it goes. And so it's drawn and based on that, but this is a film, and just the overarching thing is that it's really referential. In fact, Nathan knows one of the references in it is to a Bosnian film, actually a Yugoslavian film, Case of the Missing Toe. We actually sort of reenacted the scene from a movie. So this is sort of postmodern in the sense of a lot of quotation and things like that in it. The other thing about it is my work, personal work at this time in the last decade, has been primarily working on what's called, there's something called micro-budget cinema. And they go, oh, you do micro-budget cinema? And I go, yeah, those are films like 50,000 to $250,000. We try to make these films for $10,000. The first one, Carmilla, was made for about $5,000 on that one. And this one came in just under $10,000 on it. And so we brought these in. And part of my thing with that is I like to push the envelope in a sense of like, it's important that people know that you can make films, whether it's a short film or a long film. You can make a film and you don't need to use film to shoot. You don't need that expensive technology. And there are lots of films over the course of history that were made really cheaply. And just to give you an example, everybody knows who Nolan is, the director who did Ryan Bloom, Tannenbaum, shit, and all that kind of crap. His first film was made for Following. It's made for about $7,000.
Wow.
On film. I can't even imagine that. El Mariachi was made for around $10,000 on film. So we're now in a period of time where people have iPhones that are totally good for cinematic work. As we know, there's been some recent feature films. The Bone Temple, those 28 day layers that were shot. Once again, that rig is hardly cheap, but the basic unit is an iPhone. And so all this technology is available. In many cases, as in DaVinci Resolve, it's free, right, on that front. Reaper, which is a really complex and powerful audio editing software, is free, right? So a lot of this stuff is totally available. So when I go around and speak, I'm really, my idea, and this happens with the tall people a lot, they think they need all this really expensive equipment to shoot. Like, well, I can't make my film because I can't get a red or an Arri camera, right? And I'm just like, I'd love to come over there and do a seminar with them because I've had them show up. And it's like, okay, what was that shot on? And, oh, what? And I go, that's a Micro Four Thirds. It's a small handheld camera, a notch above my iPhone to some degree. And so part of the thing I'm trying to get people to understand is that you can make these films on that level. You don't need a lot of money, and you can actually make them look nice. They can be pretty films, they can sound film, and you can bring everybody in. Now the thing that unites these, Carmilla, the first one, and Carmilla, are we going to show Carmilla at some point?
I would love that.
We used audio from Grumpy's band, Sweet Cobra, highly recommended. Or that if you want to pitch any new work, all right, but Sweet Cobra, it did the soundtrack. You can get a taste of that by finding the Carmilla 2015 trailer, which is, according to many, my best trailer work I've done. But it was cut to Sweet Cobra on that front. So the key thing is that when we do these films, we're going into what's called right to resources. In other words, let's create a script that we can do with the resources we think we're going to have, but maybe not have. This film, we actually came in way under, I won't say under budget, under scheduled budget. We didn't get half of what we asked for. And there was some discussion of like, I think I said, we need to drop this. The crew, some of them, just wanted to say, I was going to shoot this. So we went forward with the project, which then caused us to retrench, do things differently, and in a certain way, that's a good thing, because it destabilizes you. You got to rethink it. You got to think on your feet, and you get sort of this kind of notion of the film is in the moment of production, which, if it works out, it's great. And so the other thing is that most of the people working on this film are students and former students who have volunteered on it. Actually, the first film that got it rolling, Carmilla, was actually shot because the students kept harassing me about, I was always talking about this screenplay that I had, that was famous. Yeah, I got this film I'm going to do someday called Carmilla, and I use an example. And they go, well, when are you going to make it? And then I dared them, and I said, you know, when you all volunteer to work on it, the next week, there were 8 volunteers for that film, which went around the world. It was shot very cheaply. This one's been around the world too at this point. On that level. We won a lot of awards for things like we had serious problems with audio. I'm kind of hard of hearing, and yet I think how many? 5 awards for audio design and production. So that's one of those like university graduation stories. Like, don't think you can't do something. I shouldn't have. But the point is that the marketplace wants to not have you do things, not have you do things your way. But the technology says no, it's available, it's adaptable, it's usable. So go from there. So we're going to watch once again. Most of the people that worked on this film, not all, were students and former students on there, and the screenwriters, I think they're all students, except Nathan, right, helped us out. And so on that front, but at that, we also, as far as crew members, Nathan was a consulting writer. Is that a good enough term?
That's perfect.
Screenwriter, consulting writer. Lisa, who's a teacher of literature or something, and screenwriter, and John is the editor and the special effects person. And this is important because you see some crazy photo effects, which maybe don't look so crazy now. But when I went out and I said, well, we need a crow to do this and that, people, well, that's going to cost you $10,000. That needs to be a literally one person said, I'm going to need a 3-person crew, and it's going to take about 6 months. It's like to put a crow outside the window of a train, and so John did it for me.
Right.
Crazy photos of things. So the key thing is that you can do a lot for little. And like I said, the technology, sometimes bemoan the fact that the technology now is this technology is actually old and is now been replaced by technology which is newer and better on that level. So again, our motto was more crows. And that appears in the film as images and also in the soundtrack. So what else can I tell you? That's probably enough we need to get rolling. I'll take any questions afterwards on that front. Oh, just in case somebody's wondering, this was shot with a GH5, which is a Panasonic Lumix little handheld mirrorless camera. I did use vintage lenses on it. It's something for big chunks of it, but also it's a very low light camera. And I should point out, many of the scenes that are shot at night were actually shot at night with little to no additional lighting on that level. And so that's once again, it's like, somebody we were talking about film, and I go, why would I use film? We couldn't have done those shots. Or we would have had a truck with lights moving down the street. It just takes the fun out of it. All right, so, but anyway, are we ready?
Yeah.